Welcome back to another episode of The Banana Show, where we speak about a variety of topics mental health and self improvement related. I'm your host, Anna Banana, and today we're going to talk about a very heavy topic. Remember to like, subscribe, share, and listen to my podcast on all streaming platforms. I'm going to put all the links in my description below. But let's get into it. Welcome back to another episode of The Banana Show, where we speak about a variety of topics mental health and self improvement related. I'm your host, Anna Banana. Remember to like, subscribe, and share, and listen to all my podcasts or other podcast episode on the streaming platforms, which I will be placing in the description box below. This is going to be a heavy topic, guys. So, we're going to talk about how to deal with not having the closest relationship with your mother on Mother's Day. So, without further ado, we're going to get into it. So, my relationship with my mother isn't the best. I don't even think I would call that a relationship because I wasn't grown with her. We don't have like a mother daughter thing. I hardly talk to her. We don't get along because she will say and do things that will irritate me. And I still haven't learned how to not let her get to me negatively, so I don't go around her. And sometimes as a child growing up, I used to feel bad about that because what they sell you the narrative that the only family that is accepted or good or whatever is a nuclear family. And when you don't have a good relationship with a parent overall, it can be hard to navigate that because it causes you to feel a bit guilty and shame and like you're not worth it because you don't have this relationship. But growing up, I have learned how to deal with it. And no, at first I was just ignoring it like it's not a big deal because how can you miss something that you did not have in the first place? But then I learned how to properly deal with my feelings towards it. And I know that Mother's Day can bring up these feelings for others. So I'd like to share some of the things that I have done to get through my feelings with how I feel towards my mother. So let's get into it. So the first one is don't feel bad about it. It's not your fault that you don't have this glamorized relationship with your mother. That's not your fault. Don't let anybody guilt trip you into, oh, you have to force yourself to contact your mother, especially if you're not ready for that type of thing. Because I have been in situations where I forced myself to be that daughter to my mother. And you know what that caused me? More rejection and more pain. Especially, it hurt me so much more because this is not something that I wanted for myself. I didn't believe that I was ready to force myself to try. I was just doing it because my siblings believe that I should put all my feelings aside to accommodate my mother, which did not work. So do not force yourself and do not feel bad if you're just not ready to try and cultivate a positive relationship with your mother. So that's the first one. The second one is that if you need space or you need to get away from the environment during that day, it is important that you do so because even though it's Mother's Day, you still matter. No, I don't want it to sound selfish, but it is what it is. It's it is what it is. So you have to take care of yourself first. So if it is that you still live in a toxic household with your mother, you can get away or get out of that space as much as you need to. But don't make it look like you're actively avoiding the situation so that your mother doesn't react negatively to you and it causes a whole big thing that you're trying to avoid. So that's my other tip. Next tip is hold on there, because I have my book, because I have all my thoughts here so that I don't forget anything. So my next tip is stay off social media, because I've had before there was even social media, I've had situations where I felt like shit. Especially, I hope YouTube don't like block me for saying that, but I felt like shit because during PTA meetings, everybody mother would be there, everybody father. Well, not really with father so much as their mother, but they would be there, they would be actively involved in PTA. They will come if something is wrong with their child. But at the time in primary school, I was living with my auntie, and she would actively tell me that if something happens at school, I would just have to stay there. Or if I manage to get expelled, that's just the end of it, because she's not coming up there to deal with that. So I've had that situation. So just stay off social media, because seeing all of that and seeing the narrative that is being pushed and seeing that everybody is celebrating their mother on that specific day can make some form of guilt and shame come up for you, which make you feel like shit, especially if you are grieving as well. That makes it worse. So it's best to just avoid social media for that specific day or a couple days after that, and just wait it out. Spend some time working on yourself and working on your feelings towards that whole situation. So there is that as well. Um da, 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 da. If you currently still live with your mother and she's very toxic and she tries to argue with you, play it off and say like this is your special day and I don't want to argue, it's less than likely that an argument will spew from that, what you tell her, because you're not adding gasoline to the fire. Because sometimes our parents will do and say things that isn't right, and when we get irritated or answer back, it makes the situation worse. So it's a case where you don't want to be the bigger person, but you have to if you want peace. So there is that as well. um yeah, remember that in this situation or throughout life that you are not your parents. You are not going to end up like them. You might be linked to them, but you are not them. A lot of us get caught up in being obsessed about, like, a lot of times our parents are shit, I'd admit that, and we are caught up in a whole journey of, oh, I'm never gonna be like them, I'm never gonna be like that. And because you're so obsessed about not being like them, you attract being like them. I hope I am making some sense here. So you say you're not gonna do this, and you keep on saying I'll do it, but you self-sabotage yourself in a way that you end up being and doing exactly what you do not want. So understanding that in yourself and in your mind, say you're not your parents, and that is just it. You are not your parents. You are a part of them. They are a part of you, but you are your own person. And I think a lot of us need to remember that. Um, Let me see what other tips I have. Mm-mm-mm. Next tip is refrain from having prolonged conversations with your parents. Like, keep it as close as possible, because sometimes when you are in certain situations and even when you're having normal conversations, it if it's prolonged conversation, it leaves it open for argument to start, and you just don't understand where the argument is coming from. So as bad as it sounds, I know that it's good to just refrain from having prolonged conversations with parents that you don't get along with. So there is that as well. That's also another tip. And stay grounded in your own beliefs. Don't you can What you would I call it now? you cannot say anything than share your own opinions if you know that it's going to cause a problem. But I wouldn't advise anybody to um agree if they don't want to, or if they really don't agree. Just close it and they will add any fire to the fuel or fuel to the fire. You know? So there's also that as well. Um when you get a chance to leave the environment, leave and don't look back until you're ready to do so. If it is that you want to cultivate a proper relationship with your parents or with your mother, take it slow. Don't make anybody tell you about or say, oh, this is your mother, it's the only mother you're going to have, blah, blah, blah. Because a lot of people, especially in our country, and I'm sure a lot of us who have negative relationships with our parents, a lot of people who have positive relationships with their parents do not understand. And as such, they will invalidate your feelings because they are incapable of understanding. So when people say this, oh, you need to talk to your mother because are the only mother you ever gonna have, just shut it down same time. Don't respond, cut them off, or just send them up under their mother. I just saw it, I forgot go. All right, don't do that. Don't choose violence. But just shut it down and don't don't choose something that you know you're not comfortable with and it's going to make you feel worse, because I feel like society pushes us back to our parents and making us feel guilty for cutting off whoever that treats us the way we're not supposed to be treated, to make it seem like, oh, because this is a parent, we should accept their behavior. It doesn't work like that. So if you get a chance to leave the environment, if you feel like no contact is best for you, don't feel guilty about it. Just work on your feelings towards the situation. And if you are privileged enough to get therapy about it, you can do so, because that can also be very good for you. And I think that's it. That's all I have to say for this episode. I hope this episode has helped those who don't have a good relationship with their parents and are trying to navigate Mother's Day the best way they can when there is literally no positive words or very little positive words to explain the relationship they have with their mother. So, thank you for continuing to support my podcast. I will see you guys in another episode. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. And, keep on keeping on.